General Audience number 61 of April 22nd, 1981. We are reflecting, with reference to Christ's words in the Sermon on the Mount, on the problem of the ethos of the body in works of art. The roots of this issue are very deep. Here one should recall the series of analyses carried out about Christ's appeal to the beginning, and then about his appeal to the human heart in the Sermon on the Mount. The human body, the naked human body, in all the truth of its masculinity and femininity, has the meaning of a gift of the person to the person, due to the dignity of the personal subject. The ethos of the body, that is, the ethical order of its nakedness, is closely related to that system of reference, understood as a spousal system, in which giving by one party encounters the appropriate and adequate response to the gift by the other. This response is decisive for the reciprocity of the gift. Artistic objectification of the human body and its male and female nakedness for the sake of making of it first a model and then a subject of a work of art is always a certain transfer outside of this configuration of interpersonal gift that belongs originally and specifically to the body. It constitutes in some way an uprooting of the human body from this configuration and a transfer of it to the dimension of artistic objectification, specific to the work of art or to the reproduction typical for film and photographic technologies of our time. In each of these dimensions, and in each of them in a different way, the human body loses that deeply subjective meaning of the gift and becomes an object destined for the knowledge of many, by which those who look will assimilate or even take possession of something that evidently exists, or rather should exist, by its very essence on the level of gift, or of gift by the person to the person, no longer, of course, in the image, but in the living man. To tell the truth, this act of taking possession happens already on another level. That is, on the level of the object of artistic transfiguration or reproduction. It is, however, impossible not to realize that from the point of view of the ethos of the body, understood deeply, a problem arises here. It's a very delicate problem that has various levels of intensity, depending on various motives and circumstances, both on the side of artistic activity and on the side of knowledge of the work of art or its reproduction. From the fact that this issue arises, it does not at all follow that the human body in its nakedness cannot become the subject of works of art, only that this issue is merely aesthetic, not morally indifferent. In our earlier analyses, especially those regarding Christ's appeal to the beginning, we devoted much space to the meaning of shame and tried to understand the difference between the situation and state of original innocence, in which both were naked, but they did not feel shame. Genesis chapter 2, verse 25. And the later situation and state of sinfulness, in which the specific need for intimacy with regard to their bodies arose between man and woman together with shame. In man's heart, subject to concupiscence, this necessity serves also indirectly to ensure the gift and the possibility of reciprocal self-giving. This necessity forms also man's way of acting as an object of culture in the widest meaning of the term. When culture shows an explicit tendency to cover the nakedness of the human body, it certainly does not do so only for climatic reasons, but also in relation to the process of the growth of man's personal sensibility. The anonymous nakedness of the man object contrasts with the progress of an authentically human culture of morality. It is probably possible to confirm this point also in the life of so-called primitive peoples. The process of sharpening personal human sensibility is certainly a factor and fruit of culture. Behind the need for shame, that is, for the intimacy of one's own body, about which the biblical sources inform us with such precision in Genesis chapter 3, a deeper norm lies hidden. That of the gift oriented toward the very depth of the personal subject or toward the person. especially in the man-woman relation according to the perennial order of reciprocal self-giving. Thus, in the processes of human culture, understood in the broad sense, we observe, even in the state of man's hereditary sinfulness, a rather explicit continuity of the spousal meaning of the body in its masculinity and femininity. Original shame, known already from the first chapters of the Bible, is a permanent element of culture and morality. It belongs to the very origins of the ethos of the human body. A person of developed sensibility, it crosses the limit of that shame only with difficulty and inner resistance. This is clear even in situations that otherwise justify the necessity of undressing the body. For example, in the case of medical examinations or operations. In a group by themselves, one should also recall other circumstances. For example, those of concentration camps or places of extermination, where the violation of bodily shame is a method used consciously to destroy personal sensibility and the sense of human dignity. Everywhere, though in different ways, the same line of order is reconfirmed. Following his personal sensibility, man does not want to become an object for others through his own anonymous nakedness, nor does he want the other to become an object for him in a similar way. It is evident that he does not want to the degree in which he lets himself be guided by the sense of the dignity of the human body. There are, in fact, various reasons that can induce, incite, and even press man to act contrary to what the dignity of the human body connected with personal sensibility demands. One cannot forget that the fundamental inner situation of historical man is the state of the threefold concupiscence. See 1 John chapter 2, verse 16. This state, and in particular the concupiscence of the flesh, makes itself felt in various ways in the inner impulses of the human heart, as well as in the whole climate of relationships between human beings, and in social morality. We cannot forget this point, not even when we consider the issue of the wide sphere of art, above all when it has the character of a visual image or show, and likewise when one is dealing with mass culture, which is so significant in our times because it is connected with the broadcasting technology of audiovisual communication. The question arises when and in what case this sphere of man's activity, from the point of view of the ethos of the body, should be accused of porno vision, just as some writing has been and is accused of pornography. That second term is older. The one, as well as the other, happens when one oversteps the limit of shame or of personal sensibility with regard to what is connected with the human body, with its nakedness. When, in a work of art or by audiovisual media, one violates the body's right to intimacy in its masculinity and femininity, and in the final analysis, when one violates that deep order of the gift and of reciprocal self-giving, which is inscribed in femininity and masculinity across the whole structure of being human. This deep inscription, or rather incision, is decisive for the spousal meaning of the human body, that is, for the fundamental call it receives, that of forming the communion of persons and of participating in it. If we now break off our consideration, which we intend to continue next Wednesday, we should note that the observance or violation of this order, which is so closely connected with man's personal sensibility, cannot be indifferent for the problem of creating a climate favorable to chastity in life and social education.